Welcome to episode 23 of the Chamber Members Podcast. Today's guest is Eddie Kee with Kee Innovations. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, Sean Hetrick, SBS Consulting Systems. We're again proud to be the sponsor of the podcast here. It's just so exciting to hear what these new businesses have to offer and how they started and how they grow, and just the insight into their industry. One of the things that we do at SBS Consulting Systems is really help businesses grow. We do a lot of automation, a lot of things to build systems to allow you to scale and grow. Because if you can process more data, if you can process more invoices, you can process more payables, you can really grow quickly and efficiently. So again, SBS Consulting Systems.
Eddie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So Eddie, tell me a little bit about Kee Innovations. How long have you been in business? How many employees have you had? Have your services changed over the course of business?
We've been in information technology and our consulting since 1985. We currently have 7 direct employees, and we have a virtual team of 50.
Wow.
Nice.
So we can address most needs of the customers depending upon what their technology needs are.
It's been a lot of change since 1985 to now.
Yes, it has. And in the 2000s, everybody had their own server rooms, email systems,
Right.
and that all went to the cloud, and we migrated with them, and then we just kind of evolved with it.
Nice.
Overall, the whole time, security's been important, but now it's become primary business.
Yeah, real critical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So, I'd like to dive in and talk about, cyber criminals and cyber attacks, because I know your business revolves around a lot about, preventing, fraud and business getting taken advantage of and their customers' data taken advantage of. Why do criminals go after businesses and try to control their data or steal their data or control their computers? What are these cyber criminals looking for?
Well, it used to be the cyber criminals went only after large businesses. So they were looking for the big payouts. But to get to $500,000, they had to hit one big one. They realized they could hit 10 at 50 or 100 at 5. So to them, the payout's the same. Easy pickings. People are vulnerable. Most of our job is 20% technology and 80% people. Training them on procedures, training businesses on good business practices. That's the biggest thing that we have to look for to actually solve the problems. We can close most of that. We should be able to stop a lot of the problems. What we now say in the industry, we cannot prevent any cyber attack or cyber exploit. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen to everybody. It's just to what level can we prevent it, and at what level can we mitigate the damage?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key, is having it in place prior to something coming your way.
Yeah, but stuff is still going to happen, and people have to be cognizant that they're going to be impacted. Is it just a nuisance, or is it actually catastrophic to the business? One of the criteria are most businesses that are under $100 million in revenue, if they get hit with a major cyber attack, they're out of business within 6 months.
I bet, yeah. You actually gave me a pretty good statistic earlier about the size of this industry.
Yes, United States' GDP is around 23 trillion. China's about 15, and cyber attacks are 8 to 12 trillion. It's kind of different where it wants to go. And Germany's the next largest economy. So the cyber criminals are the 3rd largest economy in the world. They are expected to pass the United States in 2027 in value.
That's crazy.
Now, some of
theft,
some of that is the theft.
Yeah.
Some of it is the cost to repair from the theft or repair from the damage, because they're not always going to steal stuff. They're also being very malicious.
Okay.
Primary example is they never used to go after schools or kids or hospitals. They just locked out a major children's hospital and actually locked the IV pumps.
Oh my gosh.
So that they couldn't even use them for the kids.
Was that for ransom or turn it back on, give us money, or just?
I think it was just to show that we could do it.
Just to do it. That's crazy.
That's horrible.
Yeah, the impact that would have on
Yes.
the whole system. I mean,
Right. Like I said, they used to be an honor between the thieves, but there's no longer an honor.
So, what can be done if someone has a cyber attack?
If there's a current cyber attack going on, we have to bring in an incident response company. There's just no way around it because we have to preserve the evidence. We have to preserve the data. If there's insurance involved, then there's also many different steps that they need. We coordinate that effort on a customer because if somebody just calls us up out of the blue and says, something's going on here, we'll come in there and look at it and evaluate, yeah, you do have an active risk going on. Otherwise, if it's a new client that we're onboarding, we start with something called a cybersecurity risk assessment. Business terms, it's a gap analysis looking for all the different missing items that a business has related to cyber, procedures, people. We get to know your business better than you know your business. By the time we're done with it, we get to know your risks better than you do, and we document them, and then we come up with a solution to try to solve your problem. At that point, once we onboard you, we essentially become your IT department, your CIO, and your Chief Information Security Officer too.
Yeah. Well, and that's the key, is hitting it before, getting that analysis in place and everything in place prior.
Correct, and gives us a baseline documentation. If we can find the information, the bad guys can.
Right.
It's surprising how many spreadsheet files are filled with Social Security numbers, how many of them are filled with passwords, and how many people share the same password throughout a business.
Yeah.
The boss is paranoid. He thinks he needs the password for everybody. He doesn't need the password for anybody. That's just a security risk.
Yeah.
Right.
And now we have the ability to actually encapsulate software in the past that we couldn't encapsulate, and just let that one piece of software run with admin privileges versus letting somebody run wild on their computers.
Okay. So you're able to really put a plan in place for people to protect themselves and find the security risk, but then also if something does happen, you kind of coordinate with insurance and legal and just make sure things are wrapped up so that you document properly and try to recover what you can.
Correct. And part of our process is to make sure we have all the players documented. Surprising how many businesses actually don't have an insurance policy related to cyber insurance. But it's also a lot of businesses, even medium-sized, don't have an attorney.
Yeah.
We make sure that they have an attorney. There's many reasons they need to have an attorney on this process if something's going on. All the way through, we can even bring in companies to help with reputation management if we have to. And there's mandatory reporting for a lot of this.
On the financial side, yeah.
Even if it's not a publicly traded company, there's a lot of mandatory reporting that needs to be done for it. If you're a public trading company, you have 72 hours before you actually have to disclose to the Security Exchange Commission.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it has a big impact on shareholders if something happens in cybersecurity. So what are some things that people can do to protect themselves? Is it understanding phishing emails? Is it having backups? Is it what are some preventative things you can?
All of the above and more.
Okay.
It's all good. It's what I call good IT practices, and we've gotten away with it with the commoditization of IT. The hardware you buy at a local box store is not the same hardware that we bring in from.
It's not.
Nope. And it's. I mean, people think we can go out to the local box store, buy our hardware, buy our software, and we're up and running for our business. And when we come in and quickly tell them that, wait a minute, this has got to go, this has got to go, this version of the operating system's got to go. Cleaning and closing all of that, making sure that they're under a patch management schedule, and you have to, I want to run my old Windows XP box. No, you're going to be on Windows 11 now. There is no exceptions for it, and you are going to be on the current security patches that were released this last Tuesday.
Yeah, or else you're just at risk. Yeah.
So, and they're released for that way. But we also tell them passwords are paramount. Their smart devices all need to be set up properly. They need to have the encryption turned on them. We encrypt everything. So we're going from a point of if the data's, for some reason you lose your laptop, you lose your computer, it's stolen, the information on it's useless.
Nice. I'm sure that really helps for getting cyber insurance too, is having all this stuff in place and your insurance carrier seeing that, you've done this analysis that you guys provide, you've put these procedures in place.
Right. We can document what we've done, and they can hand that report to the insurance companies, and they'll get a sizable discount.
Yeah.
And sometimes the sizable discount actually more than pays for our service
Right.
for a smaller business. Once you
Yeah.
get a bigger one,
Yeah.
we tell every company, regardless of size, your IT budget's 3 to 5% of your revenue. And they look at me kind of strange. And I said, well, just think of it this way. If you had to replace your IT with employees, how many employees would you need to replace what one computer does?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's
for
a lot higher than that.
Yep.
For sure.
So if someone wants to reach out, get an assessment from you, or they need guidance on how to deal with, cybersecurity or a breach, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Right there, 330-826-1950. Give us a phone call. Usually someone's in the office, unless we're all busy on phones. Leave a voicemail. We'll get back to you probably within an hour.
Awesome.
Cool. So being a chamber member, and that's kind of where we met, is through these chamber events. Do you have someone you'd like to shout out, or a couple people you'd like to shout out that have really been helpful with the chamber?
Sure, Tom Smith from Comfort Systems. I mean, everybody knows him. He runs around. He's a very good mentor, and he's got a philosophy of dig your well before you're thirsty. And Caitlin McAllister from Key Bank. It's fun to have a discussion with her on the same stuff because what is considered on her side fraud, on our side is cybersecurity.
Yep.
And all of the financial frauds has been dumped into our lap.
Right.
Absolutely. So thanks for coming on board. I really like to, learn more about the industry and what to look out for. I think it's really important as things change and, criminals find different ways to exploit businesses. Definitely need to keep that in mind as, as small businesses grow and protect themselves.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on and sharing a bit with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Don't forget to visit cantonchamber.org. Catch all the upcoming events they have coming on. Springtime, summertime is always busy. A lot of fun activities and a lot of networking opportunities too for small businesses. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.